till shloka 70. So we'll start with 71. Please repeat after me. Vihaya kamanya sarvan. Vihaya kamanya sarvan. Pumams charati nispraha. Pumams
Omam
charati
Charati
Sharti
Nishprabha
Nishta
nirmamo nirhankaraha.
Nirmamone
Nirmam
Hankara
Sashantim adigachati. Sashantim adi.
Prashantam Adhigachati.
Any volunteers who would like to read the translation and purport?
I can read,
Any?
Prabhuji.
Yes, please go ahead.
A person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from desires, who has given up all sense of proprietorship and is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain real peace. Purport. To become desireless means not to desire anything for sense gratification. In other words, desire for becoming Krishna conscious is actually desirelessness. To understand one's actual position as the eternal servitor of Krishna without falsely claiming this material body to be oneself and without falsely claiming proprietorship over anything in the world is the perfect stage of Krishna consciousness. One who is situated in this perfect stage knows that because Krishna is the proprietor of everything, everything must be used for the satisfaction of Krishna. Arjun did not want to fight for his own sense satisfaction, but when he became fully Krishna conscious, he fought because Krishna wanted him to fight. For himself, there was no desire to fight, but for Krishna, the same Arjun fought to his best ability. Real desirelessness is desire for the satisfaction of Krishna, not an artificial attempt to abolish desires. The living entity cannot be desireless or senseless, but he does have to change the quality of desires. A materially desireless person certainly knows that everything belongs to Krishna. Isavasyam
Ishavasyam idam sarvam.
idam sarvam, and therefore he does not falsely claim proprietorship over anything. This transcendental knowledge is based on self realization, namely, knowing perfectly well that every living entity is an eternal and parcel of Krishna in spiritual identity, and that the eternal position of the living entity is therefore never on the level of Krishna or greater than him. This understanding of Krishna consciousness is the basic principle of real peace. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, Annie, you want to share some points from this? Anything in particular you want to share?
No, it is just that we need to understand the difference between our to actually realize that material is going to be there, but if we we say in Hindi ki भगवान के हाथ में सौंप दिया है, we know that we are puppets and we are going to be in the hands of Krishna. Things will go right eventually.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So, here we'll see what Krishna was discussing previously. Just the shloka prior to this was talking about how desires keep flowing. Apurya manam achala pratishtham. So the shloka we did last week, where Krishna was mentioning to Arjun how all the rivers are flowing towards the ocean, but ocean doesn't get overwhelmed. It's very steady because the ocean is very deep. The ocean is huge, it's large. Similarly, when we are spiritually deep and spiritually advanced, all these desires which keep coming in our mind and keep flowing, they don't make us bewildered or unsteady. They don't make us restless that we have to go and fulfill each and every desire. So that is a sign of spiritually advanced person, Krishna was explaining there. And now in this shloka, Krishna is continuing by saying that desires may flow, but one tolerates and gives up the desires for material enjoyment separate from Krishna. That is sense gratification. if we are materially enjoying without really acknowledging and acting in our relationship with Krishna, then that is not going to give us a real long lasting blissful happiness, but it may give us very transient, short term, temporary state of happiness, which is not going to actually give us um, what we are looking for. So, Krishna is saying here that such a person is who is advanced is given up all desires for sense gratification and lives free from desires, given up of sense all sense of proprietorship. We all feel we are the proprietor, we are the owner of so many assets. Whatever we may have, we may think ourselves to be the owner, but the real proprietor is the Supreme Lord. The land, we may say, oh, it's I'm the proprietor, but the land was there even before we were born, and it'll remain even after we die. But all throughout this time, the land belonged to God. So he is the real proprietor. And an advanced, spiritually advanced person understands that yes, everything belongs to God, and by the arrangement of God, I have been blessed with this situation where I have a certain um, service to engage and manage with this property which belongs to God, but I am the caretaker of this. And that I have to do as a service. So as a part of the service, I have to use it in properly in maintenance of my body, my loved ones, my family, but also the world and also others. So how I use this and utilize this, it will determine how we can spiritually advanced, and also we can stay materially vaccinated against all the bad qualities, all the other dangers which we may have to deal with. And when we are in that consciousness, that will help us in attaining the real peace. In purport, Srila Prabhupada is explaining about what does it mean to be free from desires. So when Krishna is saying free from desires, the idea here is to understand that free from desires which are material, which have no connection with God, which are not going to bring us close to God. Those are material desires, and those are the desires which we have to stay away from, or rather which we have to transform and make them spiritual desires. Spiritual desires are those desires which make us act in our relationship with God or Krishna. So here it is mentioned that desire for becoming Krishna conscious is actually desirelessness. So no material desires, but unlimitedly spiritual desires, that is also desirelessness, because all our spiritual desires are meant to bring us uh, close to God or close to Krishna. So that is the point here of desirelessness. And then Prabhupada is explaining further that we may claim this material body to be ourself, but actually this body will be taken away from us. So it is not eternally belonging to us, and it's changing all the time. And we may have uh, this assumption or mindset or understanding that I am the real proprietor or owner of everything. But spiritually, when we understand that these things are given to us by the arrangement of God, and we are meant to take care of it. So this is perfect stage of Krishna consciousness in which we can act in our relationship with God and use all the resources so that we can come close to God, and we can bring awareness of Krishna consciousness with other people who can also benefit from this and can transform their lives also. And then Prabhupada is mentioning here from the Isopanishad, materially desireless person claim certainly knows that everything belongs to Krishna. Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam. So we have discussed that how this Isopanishad talks about that everything belongs to God. That is called as Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam. So Isha, Ishvara. And being the living entities, we have a relationship with God, so we can use the property of God, but we should do it only what is our quota. We should not encroach upon beyond what is needed to have more and more greed. So there is a said saying that the world has enough for everyone's needs, but not enough for even one person's greed. So same thing is true here from the Ishopanishad, that the everything in this creation belongs to God, and we being part and parcels can use what is our quota, and our quota should not actually we should not encroach upon other people's quota. That is not encouraged or recommended. So when we understand everything belongs to God, we use it in the service of God, and that way we can advance spiritually. And this can bring real peace. Here it is mentioned, this can bring. Okay. Anybody would like to add any points here? So this is the 70th shloka of second chapter. We are going to go to the 72nd and the last shloka of the second chapter. Anybody wants to make any points before we go to the next one? Okay.
Just wanted to make a comment. I really like the one statement that it has. I mean, the whole thing is very enriching, but one statement that says people cannot be desireless, but they have to change the quality of the desires.
Yes, yes. In fact, there is one definition of yoga. So yoga word means to connect, right? It comes from the root word yuj. So um, one definition of yoga is to transform our material desires to spiritual desires. Desires which we have regular desires to become desireless, which means to transform that. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, we'll go to the next shloka. 72. Esha Brahmi Sthiti Partha. Esha
एष ब्रह्मे स्थिते पार्थ
Nainam Prapya Vimuhyati.
नैनां प्राप्य विमुह्यति
Sthitvasyam Antkalepi.
स्थित्वा स्या अन्तकालेऽपि
Brahma Nirvana Richati.
ब्रह्मनिर्वाणरिच्छति.
Any volunteers who would like to read this translation and purport?
I can read.
Please go ahead.
This is the way of a spiritual and godly life, after attaining which a man is not bewildered. If one is thus situated even at the hour of death, one can enter into the kingdom of God. Purport. One can attain Krishna consciousness or divine life at once, within a second, or one may not attain such a state of life even after millions of births. It is only a matter of understanding and accepting the fact. Katvangya Maharaja attained this state of life just a few minutes before his death by surrendering onto Krishna. Nirvana means ending the process of materialistic life. According to Buddhist philosophy, there is only void after the completion of this material life. But Bhagavad Gita teaches differently. Actual life begins after the completion of this material life. For the gross materialist, it is sufficient to know that one has to end this materialistic way of life. But for persons who are spiritually advanced, there is another life after this materialistic life. Before ending this life, if one fortunately becomes Krishna conscious, he at once attains the stage of Brahma Nirvana. There is no difference between the kingdom of God and the devotional service of the Lord. Since both of them are on the absolute plane, to be engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord is to have attained the spiritual kingdom. In the material world, there are activities of sense gratification, whereas in the spiritual world, there are activities of Krishna consciousness. Attainment of Krishna consciousness, even during this life, is immediate attainment of Brahman, and one who is situated in Krishna consciousness has certainly already entered into the kingdom of God. Brahman is just the opposite of matter. Therefore, Brahmi Sthiti means not on the platform of material activities. Devotional service of the Lord is accepted in the Bhagavad Gita as the liberated stage, Sagunyan Samatetan. Sorry, I do not want to read it wrong.
I can read it. Sagunan samatite tan brahma bhuyaya kalpate.
Thank you. Therefore, Brahmasthiti is liberation from material bondage. Srila Bhakti Vinoda Thakura has summarized this second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita as being the contents for the whole text. In the Bhagavad Gita, the subject matters are Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. In the second chapter, Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga have been clearly discussed, and a glimpse of Bhakti Yoga has also been given as the contents for the complete text. Thus, aimed the Bhakti Vedanta purpose. Oh, sorry, that's the end.
Yeah, thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purports to the second chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita.
The Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of its contents.
Thank you so much. Okay, so basically, second chapter, if one understand nicely, then one can understand the whole Bhagavad Gita nicely. So, in this particular shloka, it is mentioned if one is in this consciousness, this spiritual and godly life, this way of life as one is practicing, and one attains this, then that person is not bewildered. And if one's is situated in this consciousness at the time of death, one can enter the kingdom of the God. So, remembering how this section started from the 54th shloka, Arjuna was asking, what are the symptoms of the sthita pragya, or one who is very advanced in spiritual life? And Krishna explained all of this, and now he's concluding that if one is in this consciousness, then one can actually enter the kingdom of God. So, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is explaining that if one is in this state of mind, and one can situate this state of mind in a short time, then one is eligible. One can go to the kingdom of God within a second, or may not go even after millions of births. So it is a decision which we want to make. And there's a beautiful story here of Khatwanga Maharaj. So who is Khatwanga Maharaj? Khatwanga Maharaj was a great king. He was a very great and a devotee of Lord, and very powerful. He was so powerful that he was able to kill even beings who were more advanced than humans, and he was able to attack demons and all of these things if they are creating nonsense. So one times the demigods, they asked his help. They asked that they want to help, they want his help to fight with the demons, and he fought with great valor, and he was able to win. And the demigods were very pleased. They asked, what benediction would you want? And at that time he asked, because he was God conscious, he knew that material things will come and go. I had to do my duty to help the demigods. I did that, but now I have to be situated in highest level of spiritual realization, and I have to bring my consciousness to that level. So he asked, how much time do I have? When will I die? And the response which he got was actually pretty interesting. He got the response that you are actually very close. You have only one Mahurat left. So one Mahurat is a very short amount of time. And then he immediately transformed his consciousness and become fully fixed in Krishna consciousness or God consciousness. And this way he was able to come to the highest level and enter the kingdom of God. And this is something which all of us can do if we are properly trained for it. And that training may say takes time, and for most of us it'll be a gradual process. It can't be suddenly in 1 minute. No, it'll be a gradual process. But the point is that it can be done. It's not impossible. Many times people think, "Arey, it'll take many lifetimes. Why should I be serious right now?" Well, if I'm not serious right now, I will not be serious in any lifetime. So if I'm serious right now, then there is a chance that I can even get perfection in this lifetime. So that is the point here. So here Nirvan word is used. Now Nirvan word is, here it says Brahma Nirvanam, spiritual kingdom of God. Now Nirvan word is there in Sanskrit, but it's also used commonly by the Buddhists, and they and their understanding is that the ultimate goal is nirvana. Like many of the Hindus, they may have this understanding that moksha is the highest thing. So similarly, Buddhists, they think nirvana is the highest. But basically, all of these stages are the highest level of spiritual realization which one has to reach. Now, the complete details of this may not be clear. Like for Buddhists, they don't understand what basically nirvana is. They think everything is void or everything is zero. Everything spiritually is not zero, materially it is zero. So that is the detailed part. So materially, yes, everything is gone or void, but spiritually, the nirvana is the beginning of spiritual aspect. Similarly, here it's mentioned that life begins after the completion of material life. For gross materialist, it is sufficient to know that one has to end his materialistic way of life. But for persons who are spiritually advanced, there is another life after this materialistic life. So those who are spiritually advanced, they understand this is not the end. This is actually the beginning. And if one is advanced to be able to attain that stage within this life, then one attains what is mentioned here is Brahma Nirvana. Brahma Nirvana is the highest level. And there's no difference between kingdom of God and devotional service of Lord. Prabhupada is mentioning that if we are engaged in the service of Lord here, then we can be transported to the spiritual world, and over there also we'll be engaged in the loving service and act in the loving relationship with God. In the material world, there are activities of sense gratification, but in the spiritual world, there are activities of Krishna consciousness. And again, the same point that if one attains it during this life, then one enters the kingdom of God. So, Brahman is spiritual subject matter, and material is the ordinary, regular items which we come across, those subjects. Matter, anything material is pertaining to matter, and anything spiritual is pertaining to Brahman. Brahmi sthiti means not on the platform of material activities. Uh, so in subsequent shlokas, this will come that one is in the Brahma Sthiti platform or Brahma Bhuyaya, Brahma Bhuta platform. Prabhupada is quoting a great saint, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, who is from Bengal. That's where he was born, and he is very famous in terms of his writings, his songs, his teachings, and uh, he told that how Bhagavad Gita second chapter is actually having the knowledge of the whole Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna tells this in the second chapter. He tells about Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga, but he elaborates these in the subsequent chapters. As Arjuna asks more questions, Krishna elaborates on these. So it's very important to understand the second chapter nicely. That way we can understand subsequent chapters also. So this is where we'll stop discussion from this shloka. Anybody would like to ask any questions or make any points? Any comments? Okay. If nobody points, then we'll summarize the first. Do you want to hear the summary of the first and second chapter?
Yes.
Okay, great. So let's do it real quick. Chapter 1. So who spoke the first shloka of chapter of the Bhagavad Gita? Chapter 1. Can anybody tell?
Dhritarashtra.
Dhritarashtra, yes. So Dhritarashtra spoke. So starting from the first shloka to the 11th shloka, Dhritarashtra first spoke, and then he asking Sanjay what happened. Sanjay starts describing how Duryodhan goes to Dronacharya and describes the strength of the army of Pandavas and then his own army, and he compares and tells about the warriors, and he emphasizes on how everybody should support Bhishma by being at their strategic positions. And then Bhishma starts to blow the conch shell, and 12 to 20 different personalities starting from Bhishma, then the Pandavas, and everybody else are blowing their conch shell, and now it's an intense atmosphere where the battle is about to start. And then Arjun actually asks Krishna to bring his chariot between both the armies just so that he can observe and try to see who are here for fighting. And Krishna brings there, and Arjuna sees everybody, and then he starts having emotional breakdown. Basically, he's thinking, oh my god, I have to fight with my own family, loved ones. So now Arjuna is overtaken by grief, and he is having symptoms of, he's feeling very compassionate, and he is also fearful for the outcome of the war. So his physical symptoms are described how his Gandiva is slipping by these thoughts, and he is just giving all the reasons how he will not be able to fight, because this will lead to degradation of family dynasty, and it will bring all sorts of miseries. It will not bring me any happiness. It will actually cause so much sin, and it will lead to Varna Sankara and lots of problems. So this is how we see Arjuna. He is completely broken down. And now we'll go to second chapter. In the second chapter, Krishna, Arjun continues to speak, and Arjun is saying how he is indecisive whether to fight or not. He is asking Krishna and completely actually surrendering to Krishna now. And Krishna replies by chastising Arjun that how these points which you are making, maybe you are thinking are very intelligent points. I'm like a pandit or a very intelligent person, but this is actually foolishness, because you are not this body, you're spirit soul. And the soul is different from body. Krishna describes the qualities of the body and the qualities of the soul, and how wise individuals they act in the spiritual dimension. They don't attach themselves to the body. And basically he brings about the foundation for detachment and transcending all these emotions with the help of knowledge, spiritual knowledge. And he gives different levels of reasoning how Arjuna should fight. He tells how even at the material level it will bring dishonor and it will lead to sins, and then how if he performs his duty without attachment, it will bring success, not failure actually. But even if he is fearful from the outcome of the war, whether I'll, you know, die or whether I'll get the kingdom, don't think about success or failure. Do as a duty, and dharma must be performed as a service and not for evaluating personal gains. And then 39 to 53, Krishna is emphasizing how he must perform his duty without attachment. That is karma yoga. It is not just doing the duty, it has to be done without attachment, and one has to be steady. Whether it's bringing success or failure, one must be steady in that. And actions which one is performing should help bring detachment and not bondage, should not cause the Arjun to get bound to these, and should actually bring detachment. And this is how a wise person acts, and he is able to deal with different situation, and this is how wise man attains peace. So then Arjun asks in the last section 54 that what are the symptoms of such wise person or sthit pragya or spiritually advanced personality. And Krishna emphasizes that the person is free from sense gratification, he is steady in happiness and sorrows, is has control because he's free from sense gratification, so he's controls his senses and mind, and is able to conduct himself in a proper manner. And because he's fixed in his spiritual self and not in the material self in this world, that's why one is able to do these things. And because one is able to maintain such consciousness and stay in such level, at the time of death is able to enter the kingdom of God. So this is how second chapter Krishna concludes. Okay, so anybody has any questions, comments, any points? This is the summary of the first two chapters.
Just a request, is there a way these PowerPoints can be shared with us?
Sure, I can share. Not a problem. All right, I think we'll end here then if nobody has any other points. Thank you